Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for the Expanse Season 5, Episode 7, Oyedeng. I believe that's how you pronounce it. My Belter is not very good. I looked it up. Apparently it is Belter for goodbye or farewell, which makes sense as a title for this episode. Anyway, this video is a part of a series of videos where I review episodes of The Expanse, so I'll have to start with a spoiler warning for The Expanse up to Season 5, Episode 7. If you haven't seen up to this point, you will not want to watch this video, otherwise some things will be spoiled for you. So, this was a very strong character piece, like all around, and I dare say it might be the strongest character piece that this show has ever done, or at least one of them. And obviously, I'm mostly referring to the story involving Naomi and Philip, and I think this episode has definitely done more to flesh out Naomi's character in one episode than 4 seasons have, to be honest. And but it's not just that, though. I think the Holden, we got a lot of really poignant character beats with Holden's storyline as well. You learned a lot about his inner character as well. The Alex and Bobby stuff is more of to push the plot, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But the heart of the character stories was that made this episode really strong to me was in the Naomi's storyline. And the other thing is that the majority of this episode did take place on the Pella and did involve Naomi and Philip and Marco. And I kind of thought it would do, because when I saw the previously on, they almost entirely focused on the Naomi storyline. So I was like, oh shit, is this episode going to take place entirely? Is this going to be a singular focus on Naomi, Marco, and Philip? Which I was actually a little relieved that it wasn't entirely, that they did have some Holden and Rosnate scenes, and they did have a few Bobby Draper and Alex scenes. In fact, we even got an Avasarala cameo. But and I do think we need to take a little break from Amos, because it seemed like he's been the main focus for the past couple episodes. So I think I actually kind of like how we took a break from him to focus more on some of these other characters, particularly Naomi. And yeah, so I thought this episode was actually amazing. I was really quite impressed with it. So let's start with the Alex and Bobby stuff, because that's probably it was the shortest sort of thing that was going on. Basically, we got a little exposition about the world building of what was going on. That most of the UN ships are retreating back to the inner solar system to protect Earth, because obviously they see it is under attack because of the devastation that Earth had just seized. But they're sort of on their way back. Like they said, there were ships that are out towards Saturn or whatever, and they said on their way back that they would sort of seize any Belters or any Marco supporters that they encountered, but their primary goal, their primary mission was not to police Marco and the Belt, but was to return to the inner system. So this pretty much signals, in fact, that Marco does in fact have free reign of the Belt, at least for the moment. That he basically controls the outer planets. Like anything past Mars's orbit is Marco's domain at the moment, anyway. So that was our brief Avasarala cameo. But also that Bobby did manage to communicate with her and give her the valuable information. So now they have more intelligence of what Marco is up to. And of course, Alex is able to contact Holden and give him the proper information of all the ships that they need. And then when Holden responds and says, actually, I'm not on Tycho, I'm going after the ship that stole the protomolecule. And then Holden tasks Alex with going after Naomi, and I love how Bobby Draper doesn't even miss a beat. They don't question like, oh, we're just in this tiny ship, we're defenseless, we barely managed to escape with our lives last time. I mean, should we really go? And we just found out the marker has like 11 Martian warships. Is it really smart to go out and like, no, none of that. As soon as they, like, Alex doesn't even have to ask her. She immediately is like, setting a course. Like, God, you gotta love that. You gotta love Bobby Draper. And I love the little banter back and forth between Alex and Bobby as well. Where Bobby's like, oh yeah, it's just a bullet, just plucks it out like it's nothing. God. So yeah, so it does remind me how much I do really like these characters. And that's about it we get for them, at least for this episode. So now let me move over to the Holden stuff. And as I said, I actually thought this, even though we didn't get that much with Holden, I do think this was actually a strong character episode for him as well. And through this storyline, we got the big action set piece, which was also great. So basically, I love the conversation that Holden had with Bull about Fred Johnson, and you learn a bit more about Bull. He says that he didn't join the OPA or Tycho to help Belters. That was Fred's thing. It was more of he was devoted to Fred, and even after Fred's dead, he's still devoted to Fred. He's devoted to his memory. And I like the comparisons that he makes between Fred Johnson and Holden, how they were very similar, and how Holden says even though he respects Fred and memorializing, he said that he never trusted him, which was obviously the case, that he felt that he was always had an agenda, but Holden in retrospect is now realizing that Fred never once lied to them, and so that it was that he didn't give him as much credit. So that was a beautiful scene. I really love that. I also like the interactions between Holden and Monica Stewart. Even though I was a bit critical that it doesn't really make any universe reason for her to be on the ship. Is more of a production reason that we need another character for Holden to interact with. But yeah, I don't mind because their interactions are actually really good, and in fact, she does pull her weight. She is kind of helpful and sort of narrowing down, figuring out what's going on. In particular, I love that. Now, as a book reader, I was already aware of that. Now, I'm kind of being careful and throughout my reviews and holding back because I don't want to spoil anything or give too much away. But Monica here sort of spells out exactly what I was thinking, but I didn't want to say because I didn't want to be too spoily, is that there's no way Marco could have done this by himself. And also, because we do know that there's a Martian splinter group selling weapons to Marco, but she sort of spells it out that it's a significant portion. And this is what I think not all, but I think some people kind of miss this, saying, oh, Mars is definitely going to just easily wipe out Marco, not realizing that Mars is fractured, and most of the population left to go to the ring gates, and it seems like a very huge sizable chunk, including really high up officials, are actively helping Marco. And also Monica points out that Marco can't afford all these ships. He can't afford to pay for all this. And so how is he, what are they getting from him in return? The proto-molecule and Kotasar. So that starts to flesh out that who are these Martians? What are their motivations? What's the deal with them? Why are they? Because let's be clear here. Marco would never be able to pull off what he pulled off without their help. And in fact, a lot of people don't realize just how powerful Marco is. As I said, he is controlling the whole outer planetary, area of the system, and that's because of these Martians. And also that's also answers why Mars isn't really in a position to fight back, mind you. And remember that their parliament was bombed as well, so they're also licking their wounds. Um, and so this is something you gotta think that Bobby Draper and Alex are really concerned about. But this is, I love how Monica in this scene just spells it all out. That yeah, who are these people? And this is a bigger chunk of the issue, which I think more people should sort of divert their attention towards, which I loved. So then we see Holden go after the ship, the Belter ship, and this is, I love this action scene. I think I was here for this scene. In fact, I dare say this may be my favorite spaceship battle in the entire show. All right, okay. Well, I did really like the one in season 2 at the very start of season 2, where the Rosnate attacked the Protogen station. But even though I love season 3 and I fucking love the whole storyline with the UN and Mars war, I think the battles themselves were a bit wonky, a bit sort of confusing and hard to follow, and I couldn't really follow what was going on. And I'm not including the whole CBD from season 1 because you actually didn't see that battle in space. You just saw it from people on the ship's perspective, which is fine. But I'm talking about a space battle here, where we actually see the spaceships fighting. And as far as that goes, I think this is probably the best example of that. It was very clear cut. I could tell what was going on, and it was awesome. It was suspenseful. Like that ship just let out a ridiculous amount of missiles at the Rosnate, and it just barely managed to shoot them all off. And you can kind of tell that. And what was at least in the forefront of my mind is that Bull is the pilot, not Alex, and Bull is no Alex. He even said that he doesn't have that much experience. He actually doesn't have any experience flying a ship like that. So, and I think they kind of showed that they weren't as prepared as they would have been had Alex and Naomi and Amos been on board. But so I think that only added to the tension, and I thought that the actual scene where they shot them all off was amazing. And then Holden's like, all right, we'll just get ready to board them. I love how in the tension here too, how they Monica and Bull's like, wait, I thought you were gonna destroy the ship, and he's like, no, they might know where Naomi is. And you can see that they weren't very pleased that Holden was taking that big risk just to find Naomi, but they also knew better than to argue with him. They knew that that his mind was set, but the ship just self-destructed. And I love Holden's reaction. It's like, oh, fuck. I think that was perfect. Now, the backtrack a bit, when they first discovered that, when Alex sent Holden all the details of all the ships, he saw that Naomi's ship was amongst them. But he also saw that Marco had a huge fleet of Martian warships. That I love how Monica Stewart knew Holden's reaction would be to want to go after Naomi, and of course he was like staring at the diagram, the schematic of her ship, so it's not hard to guess what he's thinking. And I love how she immediately is like, look, I know you want it back, but we can't take on all this fleet of Martian ships. It's unrealistic. We have to focus on getting the protomolecule back. And I like how Holden was like, acknowledged this. He's like, you're right, I know that. I'm not going to do that. But instead he had put Alex in danger. But to be fair, he asked Alex to do it. And as I said before, Alex was like, he didn't need any convincing at all, which shows their strength of character. So all that stuff was really great. That is to say that I really loved it. Alright, so now let's get to the crux of the episode, the whole Naomi storyline. And I don't know if I have a whole lot to say about it, except that it was awesome. I don't think there was any part, Now this storyline, as I said, took up the the majority of the episode, and to be fair, it was slow moving. Like, there's not much that happened in terms of pushing the plot forward, but I don't think any part of the storyline was filler or boring or slow or unnecessarily slow or anything like that. I think it was as I said, some of the best character storytelling I've ever seen. It I just thought it was extremely powerful. It was well structured to start with. Naomi, having her sort of flashback memories of Philip as a baby and her and Marco happy together, like, and then it really fleshed out the whole backstory where Marco meets with Naomi, and Naomi, like, spells out exactly the type of person that he was, and Marco is like, "Oh, I meant the world to you," whatever. And then later we get a scene with Naomi and Philip where Naomi further sort of explains the type of person Marco is and how he's uses people for his own motivation, that he's extremely selfish and he doesn't really care about anyone, and that she generally wants to help Philip. But then later Marco sees that Philip, of course, is straying from him, and that Naomi's getting to him. So he's just such a master manipulator. And I like how being a manipulator doesn't necessarily mean he's like always cruel or mean or an abusive, but he's really good at manipulating Philip. I mean, he knows that first of all he kind of has to break him down and point out all of his failures, but then he sort of reconstructs his ego and builds him back up again, and to the point where he's like, "You could be the hero of the belt," and everyone starts chanting his name, Philip. Like, he knew exactly how to turn Philip against his own mother and to get him completely back on his side. And I thought that was fucking brilliant. I still think that the character of Marco is like probably one of the best villains I've ever seen. Like, that portrayal of him was amazing. But then you also had the scenes with Sen, which were also fucking amazing, especially his interaction with Naomi, where Naomi pointed out where he pointed out to her that he saw her try to kill herself, her suicide attempt, which she had no idea that he had actually seen that. And she mentioned that to Philip earlier in this episode, that she was so, and it shows the desperation of how she was, how difficult this was for her, that Marco stole her own son away, and then Sen starts to feel like deep regret that he let it happen, that he knew where Philip was. And I actually thought it was quite powerful where he said, "When I saw you again, I thought this would give me the chance to make it right." And Amy's like, "It does." And he actually believed that, so he went to Marco and tried to convince him to let Naomi go. But of course, Marco, he's not going to do that. And I love how at the end where they were like, when Marco brings Naomi aboard to the command center, he's like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna let you go," and you think, maybe Sen and Philip did get to Marco, but no, he didn't. He's like, "We're gonna let you go after we force you to watch the Rocinante get destroyed and your lovers killed," and it's Philip's idea to destroy the Rocinante, that he's gonna use the Chet has bait to lure all the Rocinante in and destroy them, and there's nothing he can do about it. And god damn, it was such an emotional, powerful, like one of the most emotionally powerful scenes in the entire show. How she was begging Philip not to do it, and he just slaps her and says, "You don't know me." Like, again, it shows just exactly how impressionable Philip is and how Marco is such a master manipulator who manages to manipulate him so fully. And I think the way that the show portrayed it, I completely bought it. Like nothing felt out of character. It felt completely and totally well earned. And then of course I loved how Sin, like Naomi looked to Sin for like, please help me, and he just turned his back because he knew there was nothing he could do, and he was heartbroken about that. It was just so fucking powerful. I mean, and also not only was it's not so much there was nothing Sin could do, because he could do more, but he's not willing. But but he still cares about her, and it was still heartbreaking for him to see her being treated like that. But he wasn't willing to risk his own life in his own position in order to help her, which is so it didn't really change from when he actually helped Marco hide Philip from her. So, but he was concerned about her. So when he saw her go towards the airlock, he followed her, or he did the search, whatever computer find Naomi, like the Expanse version of that, and saw that she was heading towards the airlock. And he's like, I knew that from the look on your face, it was the same one you had before, you're gonna throw yourself in an airlock and commit suicide. But and here's the thing, and this is what another thing I think is very interesting about this whole storyline, whole dynamic, is that they, especially Sin and Marco and pretty much all the people that knew Naomi from before, don't realize how much he's changed. They see her as weak, they see her as a traitor, and that's a perception that's completely inaccurate, and they're sort of blinded by their own misconceptions of the solar system and the world, and they can't see that she's actually a lot braver than they'll ever be. And so, and that she's a totally different person than they used to be. Because what she does next is something that Marco or Sin or any of these fucking people would never, ever, ever risk to do. So, and that's why Sin couldn't fathom that she would do that. Like, he just knew with 100% certainty that she was going to kill herself. But in fact, she had a plan to throw herself without a vaccine out into the vacuum of space in order to board the Chesmoka. And when Sin entered the airlock with her, he thought it would deter her from killing herself. But she didn't let that stop her from her plan, even though that meant Sin would die. And to see like Sin dying in the airlock, and Philip like his eyes like wide open in total shock, staring out the airlock as Sin is dying and Naomi is floating towards the Chesmoka. Oh my god. So intense. So there was such a intense, strong way to end the episode. It was just very emotionally powerful. One of the best endings that the show has ever had, in my opinion. And then we see Naomi board the Chesmoka, and we see her eyes like going all red, and they actually showed her looking at the ship from her perspective when her vision was going all blurry, showing that she's just about to die from being in the vacuum of space, but no, she makes it. And fuck, that was just so intense. Perfect way to end the episode. So my rating for Oyedeng out of 10 is a 10, the best. I think this is an amazing episode. I think this is one of the best character pieces the show has ever done, if not the best. It's one of the best character pieces I've ever seen. It's gone such a long way to flesh out Naomi's character and Holden's character, and Naomi's whole dynamic with Philip, her son, and Marco, an amazing villain for this season. And I think, I think this episode was well structured, to be extremely emotionally powerful, and the impact of it is just impressed the hell out of me. Anyway, that is it for my review of latest episode of Expanse Season 5, Episode 7. I will be back next week and every week to cover the rest of Season 5, and what an amazing season it's been. However, I shall return Thursday night, just a couple days from now, Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. West Coast Time. Well, I'll be joined by special guests Alyssa and Don Willie. Unfortunately, Darren, my usual co-host, cannot make it this week, but Don Willie will be filling in. So we will be discussing this episode in great detail. So be sure to join us live in the chat, have your say and input, and or just watch us afterwards in the archives. I will put the link to that video in the description below, so just check it out for that. Also be sure to check out my channel as I cover many other shows, such as all kinds of Star Trek, Breaking Bad, The Outer Limits, and more, so be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. And thanks a lot for watching.